I started
building a personal brand business is all.
Okay, let's start
with people raving about how can I do more of that?
Our culture, this instant gratification.
I'm going to do this. It's attached to a meeting, so we remember who agreed what.
Three of this framework is to create raving fans.
Get asked, am I Hawaiian? Because...
Hey there, Shakers, and welcome back to another episode of Worth Your Salt, the podcast that's here to supercharge your med spa and wellness business marketing. I'm Jennifer Orechwa, author of Get Found, Get Booked, and over the past 2 decades, the Salt marketing team and I have tested, iterated, and figured out what it takes to market and grow so you don't have to. Now I'm here to help you apply the marketing systems that truly work. At Salt Marketing, we're all about helping wellness practitioners like you build trust, authority, and a nonstop flow of clients. So if you're ready to take your practice to the next level, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Today, we're talking about something that I think so many med spa aesthetics and wellness brands are craving right now, even if they don't always know how to name it. We're talking about creating real trust, not just through what you sell, but through how people feel when they experience your brand. Because here's the truth. Your clients and patients are not just buying a product, a service, or a treatment. They're buying the way that they hope to feel. They're looking for confidence, calm, beauty, healing, reconnection, and sometimes just a moment to breathe. And that's when your brand can create a kind of emotional connection. That's when marketing starts to feel less like promotion and more like invitation. My guest today is Jyoti Lohman, founder of The Beauty Way, an intentional body care brand rooted in the belief that daily routines can become meaningful rituals. Jyoti built her clean body care brand as a solo founder and stay-at-home mom of 2, growing from her kitchen into retail partnerships and bespoke spa protocols inside luxury hospitality spaces, including the Fairmont Austin and Austin Proper Hotel. Now, her work is inspired by clean, premium ingredients, mindful rituals, and the idea that beauty begins within. So today, we're going to talk about what med spa and wellness brands can learn from that approach, how to slow down, create more meaningful brand experiences, and market with intention to build trust through emotional connections. Jyoti, welcome to Worth Your Salt.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. And I love everything you're saying about, we don't have to sell. We can really share what we hope people to experience. And I think that's what we're all looking for. So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And I always love starting with the person behind the brand, because the brand usually makes so much more sense once we understand the story behind it. So Jyoti, before we get into the Beauty Way and the work you're doing now, take us back a bit. What shaped your view of beauty and wellness and self-care?
My mom is really my muse. Growing up, I really watched her in a time where self-care was not a word that we used. And it was much more about giving everything and, kind of that martyrdom that was really popular in the 80s. And I watched my mom do energy work. I watched her move her body. I watched her take stressful situations and get her nails done, do her colors, work Reiki, all these different kind of modalities of sort of beauty meets soul, and help her to manage those stressful situations in life. My brother was in and out of the hospital. So there were some very major things that were going on. And I just watched her be able to pour from a full cup. And that was just kind of how I grew up. And as I had children, it almost makes me a little emotional. As I had children, I just realized how important we talk so much about being present with our kids and so much about presence in our career, and we don't talk about presence with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that's really where it starts, is that presence with ourselves. So, she has been such an example of doing and not telling me how to take care of myself, but really showing me how to do it. And I think that's really that experience of watching her do that is the foundation of the Beauty Way, and teaching me about how our mental space helps to create our reality. And that's where the mantras really came in, is that she taught me that from a very, very young age. Louise Hay has a book that's called Heal Your Body, and it talks about how, our mental really manifests into physical. And so mantras have been something that have been a part of my life ever since I can remember. So that body and soul care was such an example that my mom showed me.
Yeah. And that's the idea of rituals. I love that the Beauty Way is rooted in the idea that daily routines can become rituals. Yeah. So for someone listening who might hear the word ritual and think, that sounds beautiful, but what does that actually mean? How do you define rituals?
Well, I think of routines, just kind of the word feels like this step-by-step thing you have to do. And ritual for me, if you replace it with ceremony and kind of create a ceremony in your day. So how I create that with my body care is, instead of, putting on my cream and putting on my oil and moving out of the door, and again, this doesn't have to be a half hour, 45-minute thing. This is still a 5 or 10-minute ritual. But where it starts is drop your shoulders, take a deep breath, smell the product, let that citrus uplift you, let the ginger ground you. And what I love, especially about body oil, is we take our time. You can't really rush it because it needs to kind of glide on the skin. So replace that routine with ritual or ceremony, and it creates this sacred space every single day.
I love that just an idea of a mindset shift around it.
Yep.
Like you're not just doing and heading out, you're actually being intentional about it. Now, but you studied product development and marketing, and you worked in upscale fashion for 12 years. You traveled the world, and then you spent time as a stay-at-home mom before launching this brand. So how did all of those chapters of your life come together in the Beauty Way?
Well, the Beauty Way is the whole brand is weaving all of these experiences together. I think motherhood and entrepreneurship have been some of the most profound spiritual experiences of my life. It really shows you your strengths and how powerful you are, and it also shows you those areas that need help and need nurturing. And so, the product development has been incredible from a logistical standpoint because I was able to, be a stay-at-home mom, never have had a business, and sort of bring some of that experience in, sort of that step-by-step way of building a business. And the world travels are so woven into the Beauty Way. I have bespoke treatments at spas that are inspired by ancient beauty rituals from Morocco, from Bali, from these different places. I found ingredients, rose hydrosol in Morocco. I found plum oil in Bali. So I really did a lot of research traveling the world, getting spa treatments and just finding what these ancient cultures that know so much about the power of natural ingredients, pulling that into all of the products. And motherhood, it's taught me so much. But what it really taught me, I think, there's that part of that really postpartum part where it's new and you feel kind of uncomfortable in your body and, you're tired and there's all these different things that are happening. And I really came back to the mantras. I came back to that mind shift of saying, you know what, today is going to be beautiful. I'm open to receive all the good that life has to offer, instead of my body, looks different. All these different things that can really junk up your mind. And I just started shifting those mantras, and with the love of products and then my background with my mom and self-care, and then my fashion career taught me a lot about aesthetics and what things are, visually appealing. So it was like this time where I was home and there was something that was calling me, and I was happy being a stay-at-home mom. And there was this part of me that wanted to do more. And I really tuned into that, and I got quiet. I got really quiet with myself. And I just started digging in and saying, what are those things that make me feel creative as a creative person? And anybody that's in marketing or anybody's we're all creative in some way. And that needs to come out, and I think a lot of the times when I feel sort of, not myself is when I'm not being creative. And so I got really quiet, and I just had this idea of bringing together these mantras and this ceremonial ritual and bringing it together with something that's really practical. And I started doing that as a new mom, using my body care as my kind of my walking meditation. The shower or one of those areas is one of the very few places that we're not bombarded with a podcast or the radio or a conversation or asking to get a snack or the phone, So I just started building these rituals and these ceremonies for myself, and really shifted, and I was able to figure out what I wanted to share with my community. And that's where the Beauty Way was really born.
I love that. And you referenced a little while ago that, 20, 30 years ago, women were sort of categorized by how they served.
Yes.
Like everything you did had to be in service to others. And I think so many wellness practitioners go through seasons where they have to redefine success, like in service to others. So what did that season of slowing down and motherhood kind of teach you about identity and purpose and trusting your own intuition in that creative sense you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it was just, I started to feel, like I was saying, that kind of calling. And I think with motherhood, I reflected so much on how my mom did it and how she was able to take space and nurture those parts of her that were creative or that needed extra nourishment from a beauty standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from a physical standpoint. And I was, just kind of with that calling and that, it was almost kind of this stirring. And I needed to figure out what that was, because it wasn't that I was unhappy or unfulfilled, but there was this and what it taught me was to quiet and to allow that space to receive what my next steps were.
And I love that idea that we are all creative. If you give a kid a piece of paper and a box of crayons, they're going to create something, right? And so that sort of bubbles up out of us, even when we aren't expecting it. And that quiet place is kind of where that comes in. One thing that really stood out to me is that the Beauty Way is not just about beautiful packaging or clean ingredients. I mean, it's those things, but it's also about creating space for women to slow down and reconnect. So why do you think that message is resonating so well right now?
I think it's kind of like where I think every single person is a creative. I think every single person, no matter what you're doing, is overstimulated. We've got a lot of things coming our way, and I think it's never been more important. And look, I want to say that this is not something I've invented or this new idea, but I think what we all need is a reminder. It's just a reminder to say, hey, take a few minutes. And what the Beauty Way is that invitation and is that trigger and that reminder to say, hey, I'm going to take 5 minutes, lower my shoulders, unclench my jaw, take a deep breath, and just signaling to your brain that you're taking care of yourself is such a shift. And I just think, again, it's like we just need that reminder right now, because we are so constantly overstimulated by things, and our nervous system is just going and trying to find ways to be productive. And the Beauty Way is sort of a habit stack, because you're being productive, you're doing this, routine in parentheses, but you're creating some of that presence with yourself. And I think those are the times when ideas can come in, when that self-love is available, where that care, and I noticed that when I slow down and I say my mantra and I take a few minutes to kind of think of some of the things, not only that I'm grateful for, but that have been successful in my life, what I'm proud of. And just those little tiny habits just really are a huge mind shift.
Yeah. And I love that idea of just pausing, being intentional about it. But for our audience of med spa owners and wellness practitioners and aesthetic brands, why do you think emotional connection has become such an important part of building trust?
Well, I think for one, there's a lot of competition, and I don't think you should never not do something because there's a lot of competition, because look at the water aisle, there's a billion waters and it's all water. So I never say, in the competition in a way that like someone shouldn't share what they want to share with their community. But I think you do have to find that differentiator. What is it that you can do to help people experience that joy and that calm? And so what I've done with a lot of these spas, well, especially for med spas and for aesthetic places who are generally smaller, they don't have a wellness center. You're not doing sound baths. It's a smaller place, but people are still craving. Yes, they want beautiful glowing skin, but they also want calm. So I think you can, with intentional breath, with starting a treatment with a mantra, with tinctures, with a little bit of sound, with intentional touch, you can really create a wellness experience from a treatment. Get some Botox. And, you can also do, I have like protocols that I do where there's a little bit of, a décolleté or a hand renewal. And it's just that space where it's just calming. And then intentional touch is just, it feels so good. And then you have these hydrated hands and this hydrated décolleté. So I think it's just these smaller moments, these intentional moments that we can bring into a treatment that really create an experience of why people want to come back, because they remember how they felt. That's the smell, that's the sound, that's the way that all of these steps were taken. So I think it's really important, no matter what you're doing, to create that space for people and create that space for yourself.
It's just so inspirational. I love this so much. You're giving language to something that I think a lot of wellness brands like feel intuitively, but maybe they haven't fully built it into their brand experience yet.
Right.
It's like the idea that the treatment, the product, the service is only one part of what someone's really receiving.
Right.
So I love that idea.
I think you can even break it down to, where our hands, we have a giving and receiving. So how are we nurturing that giving and that receiving? There's a really beautiful foot cleansing and grounding ritual that I learned in Bali with my mom that I've put into a treatment here at the Proper. And it's so much about getting the dust of the day off, clearing that space, grounding those feet. They carry us, right? So talking about the energetic piece of giving, receiving, grounding feet, how they're carrying us in the world, those are really valuable. And even if people aren't woo woo or aren't into energy, you feel that and you can really tune into that. And I think that people that maybe aren't as connected to that need that maybe even more.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way to bring that in a really mainstream way that people maybe don't have language for, but feel. And I think that that's all what we're all looking for is that space and the way that we feel afterward. And then with the retail of the beauty way, I think how that ties that in is that people can have that experience with you and then bring that smell, bring those products, bring that mantra home with them. And now they're creating this experience at home. And it's sort of this full circle nourishment. And as a provider, you're helping nurture that experience.
So good. So good. I love it. All right. Right now I have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about how brands can actually design that feeling into their client experience. Back in a moment.
If you're investing in marketing but still losing leads because no one responds after hours, here's something worth checking out. Podium's AI patient coordinator, Avery, is like hiring a 24/7 employee for your med spa. Avery can instantly respond to new leads, answer questions, schedule appointments, send reminders, follow up with patients, request reviews, and keep conversations moving, even while your team is busy with the patients already in your practice. The best part? Your staff gets to spend less time buried in administrative tasks and more time building the personal relationships your patients expect. If you want to learn how med spas are using AI to increase conversions and stop losing revenue, listen to the Worth Your Salt podcast, episode 88 with special guest, Shannon Blake from Podium. You'll find it wherever you get your podcasts or at saltmarketing.co/worthyoursalt. That's saltmarketing.co/worthyoursalt.
All right, we're back with Jyoti Lohman, founder of The Beauty Way. And before the break, we were talking about beauty as something that begins within, the difference between a routine and a ritual, and why emotional connection matters so much in wellness. And now I want to get kind of practical and talk about how med spa and wellness brands can turn those ideas into real brand experiences that clients remember and trust and come back for. So let's talk about the experience side of this, because I think this is where med spas and wellness brands have such a huge opportunity. So when you think about ritual-based experience, what are the elements that make it feel different from like a standard service or a product interaction?
I love to start and end a treatment with some sort of sound. And you don't have to be a sound expert. You don't have to go, know how to do the bowls. You can get little tinctures that kind of click together. And I think for our brain, that's the start of the ceremony. And then you can end the treatment with that sound, and that's the end of the ceremony. And it sort of bookends this experience. And that sound feels good in our body. So there's a lot of ways to do very simple things. I think sound is great. I think doing 3 really grounded, deep breaths, lower the shoulders, unclench the jaw. I mean, I think something as simple as starting an experience with grounded breath changes the entire thing. I love to bring mantras into everything I do. So in my spas that I work with, they always get mantra cards, and you can say that aloud with your client. They can read it. They get to bring it home, and again, that's that little bit of that mind shift and that ceremony, as opposed to just getting your skin cleaned and whatever, treatment you're providing. It's now this wellness experience. And I mentioned to you, I have enhancements that I work with med spas who do much more like sort of medical grade treatments, but people are still looking for that nourishment. right? We all want to look beautiful. We all want to look young. We all want to look youthful and all of those things, but we also want to be nourished. And so they'll bring in the wonderful exfoliating, hydrating hand treatment with the mitts while they're doing a facial. We've got the décolleté with the products. And on the product side, they're very gentle, but they're very effective. We've got lots of actives. So you're really getting that result, but you're really getting that body and soul care. So I think there's just some really simple ways to bring in some of those experiential pieces that you don't need to have a whole wellness spa or dedicate money or time or energy into that. I think it's really about intention. And we go through so much of our life on autopilot. So someone comes into your space and you say, okay, we're going to start with the little sound. We're going to do 3 grounding breaths, and we're going to say this mantra, and you can say it, inward, or you can say it out. We could say it together, and just hold this in your heart as we go through this treatment. It's amazing the experience that something like that helps to create. And that can be with anything.
Love it. And it's so funny as you're talking, I'm thinking back to treatments I've had, massages or spa treatments where they did that. They rang the bell or they did the bowls or whatever. And like, I can still hear that sound in my head. Yeah. It sort of recalls that feeling. But I know, and you just alluded to this in what you were saying as well, a lot of med spas are focused on outcomes, right? Smoother skin, fewer wrinkles, better body confidence, whether we're talking about like less pain or improved energy. And those outcomes matter. But how can brands also speak to the emotional outcome their clients hoping for?
I mean, I think the outcomes are how you feel also, right? So it's an inside job about how we feel. We can do all the things on the outside, but it really is an inside job. And I think the more that we have those positive conversations with ourselves, I love to say that the most important conversation we have is the one with ourselves. So I think you can have a lot of people that have a lot of beautiful outcomes and they still don't feel that inside. So I think creating those experiences where, we have that positive conversation with ourselves. Like those are outcomes. People always remember how you made them feel. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a home run to give them smoother skin, youthful skin, all the physical outcomes, but it's a home run to also have them feel nurtured, like they're being kind to themselves, like they had that space to not be on autopilot, but to tune in, to feel their heartbeat, to do those grounding breaths. I think it's just a winning combination. And if you're focused on one or the other, I think it's a disservice because I think people want both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see, when we're only focused on the outcomes, the physical outcomes, we sort of miss that connection that means the world. We're getting too clinical, we're getting too scientific when people are really looking for something that's going to inspire them. And even though it's an inside job, we can sort of push them in that way and inspire them. Now, you've created these bespoke spa protocols inside luxury hotel environments. So what did that process teach you about designing an experience that feels elevated and intentional and, of course, memorable?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. We launched, as you know, in Fairmont proper, and we're launching in Miraval this week, which is, a leader in wellness. They've been around for 25 years. They started in Tucson. They have multiple properties, but just an incredible space. Talk about just great energy work and really mixing that outcomes with the inside connection. It's one of my favorite things to do. My first thing I like to do is connect with the property and see what their core values are. Now, fortunately, we're very focused on longevity and wellness and connection and slowing down. So my first thing is I do just a little bit of an intake and kind of find out what their core values are and what they want their clients to experience. And then I've brought in a lot of these experiences from Bali and from Morocco, and I just sort of help them create a signature experience. And usually what that looks like is we'll come up with one of those enhancements. I have a warm scalp treatment. I have a décolleté treatment. I have a hand treatment, and I have that cleansing foot ritual treatment. And we'll usually mix that with some sort of breath work, some sort of sound, and some sort of customized massage. And so we can really figure out what is their menu missing? What are their clients asking for? And how do we tune that in to be a holistic experience. So each of my properties have something different. You can mix and match those. You've got the hand treatment with the décolleté. So you can I work with a luxury head scalp spa. I don't know if those are really popular here in Austin.
Yeah.
And that's great, but people are also looking for, those enhancements to create even more of an experience. So it's just one of my most favorite things to do, just finding out what they're missing, what their clients are connected to, and then creating something that makes sense for their property, whether it's mantras or sound or breath work or all of them.
And that makes so much sense. And I'm thinking in terms of a lot of the clients that we work with, that this might give them pause. Like, how do I work this into what I do now? I'm doing Botox, I'm doing lasers. How do we work this in? So for a wellness brand that wants to bring more of that ritual into the client journey, where would you tell them to start? Does it start in the intake process, the treatment room? Does it go to follow-up? Talk about the details.
It's got to start from what's on the menu. It's got to start with figuring out who your client is, right? Because not everybody, you got to find out what your client is really looking for. And then I would build some sort of menu around that. And, a lot of these enhancements are in dry rooms. So I think a lot of times too, these smaller spas think they have to have a shower room if they're going to do any sort of body polish or any kind of exfoliation. That's what I've run into, where people are like, oh, I don't have a shower room. I can't offer these enhancements. The one practical thing I will say is you can offer these enhancements with the Beauty Way, at least, with a hot towel, taking off things with hot towel or hot sponges. So don't think that because you don't have this big space and you don't have these wet rooms that you can't do some of these add-ons. But I think it really starts with finding out, what do you resonate with, which I think is what your client's going to resonate with, because we go see people because there's something relatable, something that we're connected to. So finding out what that piece of it is, and then building, I would start with one treatment that sort of is that wellness experience and see how it's received. I would just really start there. And then there's kind of the sky's the limit. There's so many different elements that you can bring in, but just knowing that you can do it exactly where you are. And even if that's just with some intentional breath. And I would say, like, even with Botox and the, these kind of things, like, I would love that. I would love to mix that. I would love to, mix that part of it with some downtime, right? Like, I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm even thinking back, I marketing for a dentist. This was probably late 90s, early 2000s. And in addition to having your teeth cleaned, he would also do like a paraffin hand wax, which you would think that's silly, that's ridiculous. But you would leave his services, and we marketed this extensively, with the softest skin on your hands that you'd had in weeks. And so, it really was a selling point, and people really did appreciate that. So I think
that's so creative. That's such a creative way to help people feel nourished. And again, that's that differentiator, right? Like, there's not a lot of dentists that are doing that. So not only is it a differentiator, people are leaving going like, wow, my teeth, dentist is one of those things that you have to do, but the soft hands is like such an extra thing to walk out of there with. And so if these things like Botox or, these kind of routine things that you get done, monthly, I guess, every quarterly or whatever you do with those things, I think building it in with that calm space, just like that dentist did, is just, again, it's not a brand new idea, but it is a differentiator. I think that, again, I think it's really about the details and about the intention. I think that was, what a great thing that he was doing. And I'd be like, okay, I got to get my teeth done anyway. I definitely want my soft hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And days later, when your hands still feel good and you're like, oh, that was because I went to the dentist.
And then you almost start associating that dentist with calm and with nourishment. And so, it's, again, our brains are so powerful of what we associate things. That's why I was saying with the Beauty Way, when you look at it, there's this association with calm and the mantra and slowing down. And so if you can create them thinking of you with Botox or filler, but they're also thinking, you're not thinking pain, they're thinking great outcomes, physically, but also a moment of calm, some deep breaths, that's a real, that's an incredible differentiator.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we at Salt Marketing, we're always talking about the customer journey, how people move from basically not knowing you to trusting you to booking to becoming loyal fans. So you've talked a lot about intentionality. So how can intention-filled marketing kind of support this journey without feeling overly salesy? How do we market these things like that dentist was marketing his paraffin hand wax with your cleaning?
I'm a big fan of again, finding what is authentic for you and what resonates with you and what would make you feel like this experience is different. And because I think that our customers are always an extension of us in the sense that, they're attracted to us for our authenticity. So I think the intention needs to come from what's authentic to you. How do you bring that into your practice? And I think when you are authentic, it doesn't feel like you're selling. It feels like you're sharing or an invitation, right? I think about that a lot with what I'm doing. I never feel like I'm selling. I'm just excited to invite women to have presence with themselves. So I think if you can find that piece that resonates with you, that's really authentic, that you feel would really change your day, your client's day, and that experience, I think that's really where you start. And then it doesn't feel awkward or like you're selling. And so I think it just starts, I think it starts with quieting down, figuring out what that wellness piece is for you, and then being able to share it from that authentic heart space. And then I think just people show up who also connect with that.
Yeah. And I think wellness consumers are ultra sensitive to inauthenticity. They feel like they can feel it when a brand is just using pretty words versus what it really means for them. So how can business owners, and you kind of alluded to this, make sure that messaging is rooted in something real? Are there particular words or approaches that we should use to make sure that marketing messaging is really real and not, like you said, woo-woo?
Yeah. I think it's finding that language that really works for you. Well, again, I think everything is so saturated. So there's a lot of different places that we can go. And there's a lot of these big companies that don't have anyone attached. And I know for myself, I always go to the about page. I want to find out who's doing this business, what the heart behind it, what's their inspiration, why are they connected to this? Why are they sharing that? So I think that's a really important part. And again, I think we're just bombarded with lots of information. And I think that the reason people are not looking for perfection, they're looking for relatability. They're looking for someone that they can say, oh my gosh, we have that in common. Like you think of the things on like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok that really create engagement or connection. And it's usually not the prettiest, most perfect picture and perfect story. It's, I dealt with this, or this was an issue I had, and this is why I'm creating this. Or, from my story when I was really postpartum and needed to reconnect with that positive self-talk and also shower and use my products. It came from a place that was very authentic and I knew that I needed. And you get even away from that postpartum journey. It's the autopilot, crazy busy journey that we're all on, where that presence with myself is so absolutely powerful. So I don't even have to really market it. I have to talk about my own experience and why people are, and then people connect with that. And again, you don't need 100 million people to be interested in what you're doing, your service or your product. You need a much smaller amount who really connects in with that. And then I just think we're searching for authenticity in so many ways because now we've got AI. So my kids are like, is that a real person? I mean, I can't even imagine growing up and being like, is that a real person? Yeah. So I think the more that we're, and when I say vulnerable, I'm not saying we're sitting down crying and talking all the dirty laundry. I think it's, why are you doing what you're doing? Coming back to that why and being able to communicate that with people. And I just think people, we so much want to relate and engage with people that we feel either are on the same journey, we're inspired by, or we aspire to be like. Those are those reasons why I think people connect with a brand. So I think it starts with that quiet space, looking at that why, and how do you communicate that from that heart-centered place that's really authentic in your emails, in your Instagram, in your treatments, and not trying to be someone else, but finding what your differentiator is. And I just think that people, they connect with that authenticity so much. Those are the brands that I see that are more successful as opposed to these huge brands. But I think people are looking for that about page.
Yeah. Yeah, even in what you're doing. So let's talk about that. Tell me a little bit about that trust building and what role like the small details play in building trust. And I'm talking about things like how we articulate this, the sense that they're experiencing, the texture, or even the way that the provider explains what's happening during a service. How do we fold that into our brand?
Yeah, I like to talk a lot about sort of the needs that we all have. Again, that's that like we're also busy and bombarded. And I think what I was the piece I love to talk about for my brand is that presence piece. We're so focused on that presence with our career. We're so focused on that presence with our children or our dogs or our friends or whatever is taking up that time. But bringing in that presence with myself. So that's my authentic message, right? That's my why. And so everything I do, from the way that the packaging is. So, when I designed the packaging on the cream, it's like a little click open because at the time, my kids were breaking stuff off and I was losing it and I didn't have any of the time. And so even the intentional pieces in the packaging, I thought about how would this be easy and be a calming, luxurious experience. There's a scoop with the soak, so you know exactly how much to use. So I'm taking all the guesswork out. I'm doing all the work ahead of time, so your experience is just sensorial. So you really, I think it's a one size fits all in the sense that you need to kind of roll back. And I think this is a great exercise. Whatever you're currently doing, get some quiet time, sort of roll back why you're doing it, what the steps are, what are we missing? And, you almost kind of like dumbing it down where if I landed on planet Earth and I had no idea about this, how would I want this described to me? What language is really authentic to me? How would I know what I'm going to experience? And create your marketing around explaining it. And I love the word sensorial because I think we're all, my business is very much about sensory. It's about how it feels, how it smells, all the different ways that it makes you feel. So, I really love to think about the sensory piece of it and then bring that into everything that I'm doing. And you can do that throughout your Instagram and the way that you're explaining things. But I think if you start from a place of, why are you bringing this? Why is this treatment new? What do you felt like was missing? And I think talking to people about that, they go, oh, you're right. Okay. That is how I'm feeling. And this is how I'm going to feel. And I think just kind of explaining it. Like I love when I go to a treatment and they say, we're going to be using this products and this is what they do. And, this is how I want you to experience this. And I always do in my protocols for my treatments. I always have a part about why we're doing this. And I think starting there is a really important part. But it takes some time, especially if you've been in business for a long time and you've just kind of always been doing what you've been doing. And then you want to take it to this next level. It's getting quiet and sort of going through some of those questions.
Does it make sense? And you were talking about, having personal mantras that you kind of make sure that you're sharing. Does it make sense to have a brand mantra?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have an individual mantra for each of my products, but I have a brand mantra also. And I love that you said that. I think that can be sort of your mission statement, right? Sort of your purpose. So what is it? What is that mantra for you that you can keep coming back to that helps guide any of those marketing materials? It's like a brand Bible, but I love the mantra idea because it's something that you can write down, you can keep looking at, and it's sort of your North Star.
Yeah, and not even just for your marketing. I mean, even for your culture and your team. I mean, I feel like that would be a great step forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Great.
It's part of your brand Bible. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, you have us all thinking differently about these kinds of rituals that build trust. But it's time for another quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Salt Marketing's Worth Your Salt podcast, where we help wellness entrepreneurs attract, connect with, and nurture their ideal audience so they can grow with confidence. I'm your host, Jennifer Orechwa, and my guest today is Jyoti Lohman, the founder of The Beauty Way. Jyoti creates intentional body care and ritual-based experiences designed to help women slow down, reconnect, and nurture both body and soul. So if something you hear today sparks an idea for you of how you could create more trust, intention, or emotional connection in your own brand, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, and let us know what you're rethinking in your client experience. We're back. And Jyoti, before the break, we were talking about how trust is created through the small details, the sensory experience, the language, the follow-up, and the feeling that someone has when they interact with your brand. Now I want to make this really actionable for the med spa and wellness owners who are listening. So if I own a med spa or wellness clinic and aesthetics practice, and I want to create a more emotionally connected experience, what's one thing that we should audit in our business this week to move in that direction?
I think what you said, I love thinking about that mantra or mission and really building the experience around there. I would, actionable, get some mantra cards printed this week. Come up with a mantra, have them at the desk. It's something I do in my business, and it's one of the things that people remember the most. It's not only great for marketing because they see my brand and I've got my, my QR codes on the back, but people love to pick that up. I mentioned on the back, put this in your car or on your mirror. And it's a genius marketing tool. They're all over. People pick them up with every one of my accounts. So talk about actionable, make some little business cards that have a mantra, put them at your desk, give them to your clients when they leave, start writing mantras on their post-care instructions, right? Again, it's sort of reinforcing that calm and that space and that time. And then if, you're really called to create a wellness experience, start small, start with some breath, see how people react. Follow up and, ask how that experience was. Just start small and just know that you can start building these really tiny things that aren't going to cost a lot of money. You don't have to reinvent anything. You can get a little bell and do some breath work, and it's, almost free. And it just starts creating that experience and that differentiator from a lot of these other places. But get some mantra cards. If that resonates, I think get some mantra cards and start passing those out. And it's amazing to me that, people pass. Can I take a few of these for my friends? Sure.
Sure. Pass them out. Referrals are our friend.
Pass them out. Exactly. Have a referral code on there. Have a booking on there with a 10% off. Start using that as a way to connect with people.
And so what kind of mindset advice would you give to someone who wants their marketing to feel more soulful and intentional, but they're afraid it might end up sounding too soft or vague or not strategic enough? We talk a lot about strategy in our marketing. How can you sort of marry these two concepts?
Well, if it's something that you're called to do, again, I think your clients are going to understand this. And I wouldn't do everything all at once. I would start to see how people are responding to it and saying, I'm adding some of these wellness experiences to some of the treatments. I'd love to see how you feel after this. Just start doing some research. Like, have some of your clients that would be open to it. Do some grounding breaths, show them a mantra, start doing some research with people that would be open to it. And, I just think that, like, the thing that we can all agree on is that we're overstimulated and there's too much going on and that we all need a moment. So whether, someone's going to want to experience a mantra or not, they know that a deep breath is going to bring more oxygen to your brain, into your blood, into your body, and dropping your shoulders and unclenching your jaw. So I think you can start with some of those things that are very, this is all very science-based, right? All of these things are not woo-woo, but, can feel that way if someone's not used to it. But there's a lot of science behind taking some really deep breaths. So I think, just starting with some of those things and doing some research on some of the people that are already coming in, that are already a loyal customer. And I think even for the provider, doing those things, having that mantra, having those deep breaths, those are also going to help your energy, your headspace in those moments that you've got a busy day, you spilled coffee on your shirt, someone didn't show up, using some of those tools for yourself, because we are so energy sensitive, whether we know it or not. We can feel when people are rushing us or they're upset or any of those things. So I think utilizing some of those and just starting slow and seeing if that's something that really can add something to your business. But yeah, look into the enhancements. You're happy to reach out to me. I can help you with some sort of, some of these enhancements that create those experiences.
Yeah. And sometimes, it's about presence and thoughtfulness and making someone feel like the experience was created with care. And you mentioned wanting the Beauty Way to grow into more offerings, including wellness events and retreats. How do you think about expanding a brand while still protecting that heart and intention behind it?
And I don't know if I have the answer to that. I think that's an ongoing education for me, because I have been branching out and doing, I did a really beautiful event the other day, and we used the products with some red light therapy, some sauna. We did some sound beds. We did a salt room, and, we sort of used the oil in really intentional places. We did some qigong. Like, we did all these beautiful modalities and brought the Beauty Way into it. And it was so well received. And it was just a morning of returning to calm. And so I see that there's that need for even me creating some of those, retreats or events. I'm in a place right now where I still do a lot of, I am still a really one woman show, and I have people that that I contract that help me with a lot of these stuff as I'm growing in these bigger places. But I think what I've found is the way that I keep the heart and soul of my business is really taking the time and finding people that understand my why and my message. And I communicate it well. And there's lots of training, and there's lots of, time with me so that it doesn't get lost. And I think that's hard as a founder, because I know so much about this brand. And so I've hired people and been like, oh, they don't get it. Let's, I'm going to move on. But I'm now getting into a place where I've got some really great people, on board that really resonate with what my message is. So, and are much better experts at the things that I don't know. So just finding those people that, because not everyone's going to connect with what you're building. And so finding those people that connect with it and are experts in those places is how I want to keep the heart and soul, because I can't do everything. I can't keep my hands in everything if I want to grow. And I'm really scaling this year. I mean, I'm getting to a point where it's like, okay, really in a great way, but also, like you said, how do I keep that authenticity without doing every single event? Right. And it's a challenge. It's been a challenge. And just now I feel like I can take a really deep breath and know that I have some really great people on board, but I think it's taken time, and it's taken me patience and the energy to really, train is kind of the wrong word, but, communicate, really be able to communicate the brand. And so that again, kind of going back to the why.
Yeah, and the right people and building your culture. I for one, am really fascinated to continue to watch your journey and watch you grow.
Thank you.
But I know everyone listening in is probably wondering how to get in touch with you. Where can they find you and connect with you?
Yeah, I have a website, the Beauty Way Co. So thebeautywayco.com. You can find me on Instagram at thebeautyway_co. Those are the areas that I am most. I'm on LinkedIn under Jyoti Lohman. But I'd love to connect. And I'm doing lots of trade shows this year, launching in Miraval. So some really exciting, I've got 2 products launching this year. So I've got lots of exciting things coming up. And I just love, I started as a retail brand, and, being able to move into these signature treatments and these protocols has been just an absolute dream, because I'm taking that, and creating a true experience. So it's been incredible.
Yeah. And of course, if you want to learn more about Jyoti and the Beauty Way, we'll link everything up in the show notes at Salt Marketing. But right now it is time for our lightning round questions. These are a few quick questions I like to ask of every guest. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. First thing is, what's something about you that often surprises people?
My name is from India. I am not, and it means inner light. And my mom wanted me to always remember my light.
Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. All right. What's your favorite thing about your work that you're doing?
When I feel creative, I feel the most like myself. When I'm product development, when I'm creating these treatments, I feel so much like myself. Like not the mom, not the wife, not the friend, not the daughter. I just feel like Jyoti, and I feel like the creative being that I'm supposed to be.
Beautiful. All right. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And I feel like you've probably been given a lot. So pick the best piece of advice you've ever been given.
Yeah. Going back to that why. Keep going back to that why. When it's hard and you're crying and you don't, there's all these different things. Someone reminded me just to constantly remember why you're doing what you're doing, and it brings you back to that grounded space, and you can keep going and keep keep moving on.
Yeah, so good. All right, finally, who's inspiring you right now? What podcast you're listening to, or what's the best book that you've read recently?
I got to tell you, it's still my mom.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's still my mom. Yeah, it's still my mom. Just the way that she has incorporated wellness and connection and practicality and life and grief and the ups and downs, and remained steadfast and clear and connected to who she is so amazing to see. She's recently moved to Austin to be closer to us. And she continues to inspire me with her strength and her grace through it all.
I feel like we ought to have another episode with you and your mom on. I feel like she would inspire. Yeah. Jyoti, thank you so much for joining me today on Worth Your Salt.
Thank you so much. What a great conversation. I appreciate it.
I also want to thank you, Salt Nation. And of course, if today's conversation has you thinking, I'm ready to take my marketing to the next level, that's exactly why we're here at Salt Marketing. Our Salted Edge system is designed to help wellness practitioners like you attract new clients, convert them into loyal fans, and finally get marketing that works without the guesswork. If you have a great success story, I'd love to talk with you on Worth Your Salt. Tell us about why you're worth your salt by emailing us at grow@saltmarketing.co. And of course, be sure to subscribe to Worth Your Salt so you never miss an episode. Finally, leave us a review or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's all for this episode of Worth Your Salt. Be sure to join me again next time. In the meantime, let's get out there and shake things up.